I know there's a few other agile technical practices that you mentioned. There's refactoring, there's continuous integration and continuous deployment. These are things that are fairly technical, but all of these practices connect into scaled agile framework. And I just want to say very quickly that when an organization is doing a large scale development effort, one of the things that slows the work down the most is when there are quality problems. When one team builds something, it's somehow built incorrectly, and another team is depending on it, it can often take a huge amount of time and communication effort to sort out what's going on. And so, in a scaled agile environment, building quality in using these agile engineering practices prevents a huge amount of waste for overhead communication and coordination. It also helps the teams in the different release trains to have the same definition of done. We always do specification by example. We have certain expectations in terms of refactoring and coding patterns. We have expectations in terms of architecture, and that these technical practices allow your teams to do that. And I just want to say that as a coach working with many organizations, even recently, it is like mind-blowing to me that more teams are not actually doing this. So I think, if you're a manager of these teams, it's really important to go to these teams and find out directly with your own eyes, are they doing specification by example? Can they show you the gherkin? Can they show you the automated test? Are they doing refactoring? Can they show you how they're doing it? Are they doing continuous integration? You need to at least be aware. And if they're not, which is very common, just know that this is going to actually destroy productivity. I want to be really clear about this. This is huge. And it's really urgent for you in a scaled agile environment to get these practices in place. Shraddha, you've been working with training this. What are some of the expected outcomes of the training? Like, if developers come to this agile software development training, is it only for developers? What do they come away with when they're done the training?
One of the things that I notice from the participants from my trainings is that the teams usually have a specific roles assigned. So developers just do developing, and then testing is not part of their job. So they just write the code and then someone else will test that code. So this training really helps developers to get started with testing and knowing why it is important that the test should come first, and then you develop things with test-driven development. They actually love this, and they usually say that this is the first thing they would gonna try in their workplaces. Other thing that I notice in the trainings is usually, so there is one concept called test pyramid in agile software developer training, and most of the organizations have the test pyramid upside down. So they usually have lots of unit end-to-end tests, but very few component tests and unit tests. And so they would usually go with the learning that they need to turn their pyramid upside down and write huge amount of unit tests and very few end-to-end tests. And even though they have lots of end-to-end tests, they have defects. And in order to reduce those defects, they need unit tests.
Yeah. And I know the way the training is structured, and you mentioned this at the beginning, there's the theory component, but there's also a practice component. Can you say a little bit about the practice component?
Yes, so in practice components, participants work mostly in a group, usually in a pairs, to get in-depth experience of all the concepts. And in that, they actually practice all the techniques like pair programming, test-driven development. They would have a problem to solve using test-driven development and see how it affects the way they develop the code or the quality of code.
And when we do this, we usually give organizations a choice between a 2-day version and a 3-day version. The 2-day version, it has the practice component, but it's based on a simulation and predetermined problems. When we do the 3-day version, we actually work with the team on their own real code as well, so that it transitions from the theory and the simulation into real life, do some actual test-driven development, some actual refactoring, some actual pair programming on their real code base. And it really is very powerful for creating that momentum to continue it in real life. And of course, we offer coaching support as well for implementation. Thank you very much, Shraddha. I think this is absolutely fantastic. I know that people attending the Leading Safe course are not going to be hands-on coders themselves, but I hope that they've gotten a little bit of a flavor of why these technical practices are so important and so beneficial in a scaled agile environment.